This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrill. I am Anthony Mormino. 1 week out till Christmas Day. Also, as a note, Capital Off-Track Betting will be closed next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, celebrating Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Ho, ho, ho. It is,
Yes,
and
it's all, the landing strip is all ready for the big guy.
should remind folks, I mentioned it yesterday, closing day at Hollywood Park on Sunday. First 100 patrons in the parlor in this branch, the Teletheater down in Albany, the race house, the clubhouse race book, will receive a commemorative DVD, 15 of the top races from Hollywood Park, hosted by Anthony Mormino. Put that together yesterday.
Yeah.
How'd it turn out?
I mean, one of the a bittersweet thing. I mean, very happy to do it, but obviously it conjures up tremendous memories for me personally. But I have to recognize the fact that well, there'll be no more Hollywood futurities. There'll be no more Hollywood Turf Cups. There'll be no more Hollywood Derbies. There'll be no more Beverly Hills. No more Gamely. I mean, all those races are gone. And put a little tag in there. I was extremely fortuitous because in 1981, for the first time, Hollywood Park ran their November meet. I mean, it's something that had never been done before in the old days after Oak Tree closed. Oak Tree started, I think, in 1969. In the old days, you know, racing left Los Angeles in late July, didn't return until December 26th, and then Oak Tree started in the late 1960s. And then in 1981, the good people at Hollywood Park gave me one of the best Christmas presents ever, which was their fall meet. And they only took two races, the Hollywood Derby and the Citation. They only took those two races from their spring-summer meet. Everything else was started anew. And one of the items that they started was extremely lucrative juvenile races. Just go a quick history. And I looked this up, Seth, the other day. It was the 1968 Arlington, Washington Futurity. They ran for $385,000. It wasn't until Affirm's 1979 Hollywood Gold Cup, which was will be on the DVD feature as one of the top races in the history of Hollywood Park, they jumped to $500,000. So there was never a $400,000 race between 1968 and 1979. And then in 1981, they ran a 2-year-old race for $750,000, or in that neighborhood. And I think the Champagne, now remember, this is no Breeders' Cup era. I think the Champagne might have been about $200,000. So they were putting up this race for 2-year-old fillies for about $500,000, 2-year-old colts for about $750,000. Unheard of numbers. And then it didn't take very long where trainers figure out you run for purse value. Both the Starlet and the Futurity got grade 1 status. Then they started a race for 3-year-old fillies late in the year, the Matriarch, couple good runnings. But then in 1984, you had the showdown for the Filly and Mare Eclipse. It was either going to be Royal Heroine, who had beaten the boys multiple times, including the inaugural Breeders' Cup Mile, against Sabine, who had a remarkable campaign. I think she won at 8 different tracks in that year. Well, the showdown was the Matriarch. Royal Heroine won the championship. That put the Matriarch front and center. Now remember, that race is 15 years before the Breeders' Cup Filly or Mare Turf. So the Matriarch and the Yellow Ribbon was basically settled championship. If you look it up, I think it's between about 1982 to 1999, Seth, every Eclipse Award on the turf for the fillies was won either by a European or a Southern California one, save one. 1990, Laugh and Be Merry won. She had campaigned in New York. But other than that, they came out of Southern California, or traditionally the one-hit wonders from Europe, whether it was Pebbles or Mies. They'd come for the Breeders' Cup, win, and win the Eclipse Award. The East got drowned out until the Breeders' Cup Filly mare was soaring softly in 1999. So it was great. I mean, you live almost all of them. Landalusi's 21-length victory. And I talk about it, even in this modern era, the internet, YouTube, everything. Boy, we missed a lot of great races. I'll give you the best example I can give you, Seth. How often do we hear the best rivalry in horse racing since Affirm and Aludar? Seems to be the point of reference all the time, Affirm and Aludar, right? When it was Easy Goer Sunday Silence, they ran 4 times, best all this. Bunk, I say. 8 times. 8 times. I think Affirm and Aludar met 10 times. 8 times Precisionist and Greenton met in clandestine races. I mean, titanic matchups. Once in a 3-week period, they each set and then broke the other's mile record at Hollywood Park when it was a 1-turn mile. Every time they raced against each other, similar to Affirm and Aludar, they were first and second, except the big cap in '86 when Precisionist backed up. Jay Pribber and I were talking about it once a long time when he said to me, because Jay's obviously a West Coast guy, he said, Anthony, if it didn't happen in the East, it didn't happen. But look it up someday. The 8 times, and they each won 4. Precisionist gave Greenton weight every single time except one, which was the final time, and Precisionist beat him. It was great. But I've said it before. I'm a grown-up, I'm a big boy, and it's time for Hollywood Park to go, and I'm sure this is how people felt at Ebbets Field over half a century ago. But on a pragmatic front, it really is going to screw up Southern California racing. It's not like they built another place and they're tearing it down. It's going to throw 2 monkey wrenches in a meet that really has marched along rather nicely, because Los Alamitos, I mean, I'm romantic about Hollywood Park, but it's not going to be the same type of racing at Los Alamitos as it was at Hollywood Park. And that's going to be problematic.
Yeah, they're expanding or building out Los
There's not a lot of room.
But yeah, it's going to be tough. They're obviously expanding the Santa Anita meet. They're going to add a Del Mar meet, but we'll have to see how it's going to work out. They're working out issues on now where all the Hollywood horses will be housed. So there are a lot of things that have to be worked out. But yeah, you talked about if it doesn't happen in the East, it doesn't happen. But the big names get attention really wherever they go. And I've been pulling up some of the Hollywood Park races for the past week or so and showing them on Racing Across America. And just the names that have run there. I mentioned on Monday, going back to last week, I showed Niatros because, of course, there was harness racing at Hollywood Park. Affirmed, I showed last week.
Okay.
Yesterday, Seabiscuit, Dr. Fager, Seattle Slew in his first defeat by J.O. Tobin, and Exceller. And on today's show, I have the great John Henry in the 1981 Invitation.
I'll give you an example. Look up the 1978 Eclipse Award Turf, and you explained to me how Exceller doesn't win it, and that's just one of my examples of atrocious voting by the Eclipse Award people. So you're giving them John Henry today. Now, the Hollywood, one thing they had about Hollywood Park, especially when they started the 1981 meet, was that the May race or the December race?
I've got the Invitational, which was the earlier.
Right.
But it was earlier in the year.
They used to have 2 quirky. The Charles H. Whittingham, what that eventually turned into, used to be the Hollywood Turf Invitational, usually about 1.25 miles around Memorial Day. And then when the December meet came, they had the Hollywood Turf Cup, which was 1.5 miles, and a big-time turf race, etc. And John Henry, it was great. And I'll tell you, the racing, the turf racing was outstanding because you hardly ever had to worry about the weather. They had a beautiful filly or mare set in the spring, summer, and flawlessly ran at Hollywood Park 8 times. I think she was 6 for 8 lifetime over there. Not so good at Santa Anita, but brilliant at Hollywood Park. But that, setting aside, I mean, like I said, I'm 50 years old now. I mean, I loved Hollywood Park, and I'll tell you what, someday if we get the chance, you want to see a young Anthony Mormino. You look at Breeders' Cup 1987. There I am, front row on NBC. Talk about being, more than half a lifetime ago. I loved the place. I talked about it before. It didn't have the mountains, and it was in Inglewood, but I thought the place was glorious. And I just hope, because I don't think this is a permanent solution for Southern California. I mean, I do not think it's a workable 20-year solution on a 365-day racing calendar. So good luck to them. But I want to thank our boss, John Signor, and Mick Richards for putting it together. I could have done 40 races. I mean, it could have been, what was it, the Winds of War? I could have done the Winds of War 2013 style with Hollywood Parks closing.
Question also is going to be that late year meet down in Del Mar. I mean, obviously, you don't expect a lot of people to come to the track in the 21st century anyway, but I have a hard time believing, they get great numbers in the summertime, and the weather is still comfortable there, but it's not summer-like weather.
Well, imagine if Saratoga had a 3-week October meet.
Exactly.
October 1st, October 21st.
The locals are going to show up, so it will be interesting to see how it shakes out in California.
And I want a quick note, because I did some looking. I don't know if you have it someplace, but the Illinois people are having to reconsider. And one quick note, I'm not getting into Illinois politics, but we kind of thought it was a slam dunk that at their last one-day meeting, rubber stamp it, move on. They had some, and not for us, but I now see why horse racing didn't make it to the front on that day. But it sounds like to me, this next meeting, it is going to be a rubber stamp. The governor, who is in a little hot water with his own fellow Democrats, it seems like they have all the ducks in a row and it's going to get through, because if they don't, I mean, Arlington's going to be about 50% the number of races they had last year. Fairmont's going to be about 1/7 the number of races. And Hawthorne's going to be about 1/8 the number of races. That just can't happen. I mean, that just can't happen. But I learned why they had unbelievable politics in another field that really put horse racing aside. And I think they put it aside because they knew they had another life raft coming down the road.
Still should have taken care of it, though. This was a kind of a rubber stamp situation, and they had big issues. That's why they came back for the one day. Big issues to pay attention to. But again, this seemed like a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
They had said to the horse racing industry in their prior session, listen, we can't address this now because you guys haven't come together.
Right.
Horse racing industry subsequently all came together, put their proposal there and said, we're all good with this. So again, it was just a rubber stamp.
Yeah.
They should have taken care of it, because now there's one day left before the deadline of cutting that bare bone, putting that bare bone schedule in. It's I think it's January 29th, but it's also State of the Union Day. And the guy I talked to from one of the Illinois newspapers on Racing Across America said, typically no business gets done that day. So we have to keep our fingers crossed. But my partner on Loose on the Lead made a good point a couple of weeks ago, Steve Bick. He said, that end of January date, that's only a couple of weeks before the harness tracks are supposed to open. How do people plan? If you don't know, how do you ship in, and if you're that's a bad situation.
It was poorly done.
Yeah.
I will say, not that it matters, but they had a generational type of situation to get through, and I can only imagine the politics getting that. But if I'm betting, I'm taking 8-5. They get it done in this one-day session.
All right, let's shift to the handicapping portion of the program. I'll take a look at Aqueduct a little later on. Anthony's going to kick things off with Tampa Bay Downs for this afternoon. Their opener today, calendar condition claimer, $5,000 tags, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds up, 1.40 to trip.
When the springtime Pimlico meet popped up, I think it was about day 3 of it, I said in a tongue-in-cheek manner that it seems as if your last name has to start with the letter C for a jockey to win a race, and now you see that Victor Carrasco and Alex Cintron have moved along, and Victor Carrasco is probably going to win the Eclipse Award as the nation's outstanding jockey. Well, at Tampa, we've only been there a couple days, and the first thing you have to ask yourself at Tampa Bay Downs, which 2 races are young Mr. Dela Cruz going to win every single day? Because
bringing back a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, did you read? Dan Santino has already made the move. We wondered about that. How long would he last for the winter up there in Maryland? But it was like about a week and a half, and he said, enough of this. I'm back down to Florida.
That was a no-brainer. Like I said, you really wonder the decision-making process when you sit far away and you're like, doesn't make any sense, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. But Daniel Santino, he will have to deal with young Mr. Dela Cruz, and we're talking about Fernando Dela Cruz. I know there are a couple down there, but Fernando wins about 2 a day, ladies and gentlemen. And Jamie Ness certainly threw a curveball at everybody because he is the same beat marching on. 5-1-7 in the opener, and at 20-1 on the morning line, here comes Nice as my top pick. It wasn't a 20-1 shot that leaped out to me and made this race so appetizing. This was a race where I could it's difficult for me to say who is going to win this race. I mean, the short price horses, the 4 lowest ones, I have no confidence in. I looked at this race for an extremely long time, and I mention this all the time. If you look at a race that long, it is impossible for me to figure out how to land on the chalk or even low-price horses. This race, to me, seems to be not so much a race to the bottom, but boy, I do not trust the top half of the betting horses. So I wanted a horse who had shown a semblance, 0 for 11 lifetime at Tampa is going to be a big price. And if this race falls apart, maybe you bring the Ohio form sprinting into South Florida rooting. It really came down to a race I didn't trust at all. And I'm taking a sprinter who may be going the mile 40 on a racetrack where you're going to the post for the 12th time and haven't gotten the laurels yet. Maybe we can just capture lightning in a bottle. So it's not a 20-to-1 shot that I'm jumping up and down to wager on, but I just don't trust the runners in here other. My second place horse is number 1 at 15-to-1, shipping in from East Boston, a consistent off-the-pace runner, but she does have, a victory at Tampa Bay. She draws the inside going 2 turns. Perhaps the post will help us. And for third, the outside, number 7, Bond Baroness, who is 9-to-5 on the board here, folks. If this is the 9-to-5 type of horse that you can trust, boy, you are a stronger will than me. 5-1-7 in the opener from Tampa.
Race number 2, Tampa Bay Downs this afternoon, is a conditional claiming event, 16,000 tags. Non-winners of 3 lifetime the condition. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. 6.5 furlongs.
And I talked about it, Seth, on opening day, and you take a look at Tampa Bay, its extraordinary uniqueness. You have 6 runners in here. None of them are exiting a race from the same racetrack. We have Meadowlands, we have Churchill, we have Thistle Downs, we have Gulfstream Park, we have Tampa, we have Canada. We're all over the place. 3, 2, 6 for me. Rachel Lynn, BC. Double-digit odds on the morning line. Only 1 start since July. That was a throw-out effort on October 26th in Ohio. But in 3 starts at Tampa, I like all of them, quite frankly. Has run second, has run third, and then showed good pace numbers before fatiguing. That could just be the pace setup of the race. And in this race, I'm not so sure we're going to have a strong pace. So number 3, Rachel Lynn, BC, I think in the 3 previous efforts at Tampa, where she has always shown good internal speed, could find herself in a very, very comfortable position, hopefully about the 3 path here, turning for a home with gas left in the tank. For second, number 2, Splitting Feathers, making only the 2nd start since June. A nice comeback effort at better than 20-to-1 in the slot at Churchill Downs. Now this runner, 0 for 5 lifetime at Tampa, but never been off the board, the offspring of Include. For third, the outside horse, number 6, Port of Appeal. Only 1 race since July. That was the first day of autumn up in Canada in a stakes race. Now comes back to Tampa Bay where she is 2 for 5 lifetime. 3, 2, 6.
Race number 3 this afternoon at Tampa is another calendar condition claimer. This time $5,000 tags, 3-year-olds and up, 3/4 of a mile the trip.
8-3-2, ladies and gentlemen. My selection's in here, and the 8 goes out for Tim Richardson. Has a victory at this racetrack. This is a Kentucky circuit type of runner, but comes down to Tampa Bay, the offspring of Orientate. Draws the outside here and should sit a very tactical, advantageous position. For third, number 2, Garcon goes out for the 2nd start after a September 23rd effort at Presque Isle. The return to the races at Tampa 11 days ago, a non-event. For third, number 2, drawing the rail in here, coming off of a well-beaten 3rd place finish. 2 for 6 lifetime at Tampa. The downside to that, after that good form, we had an 18-month layoff, and now we're 5-2 in here. 8-3-2 in the 3rd.
4th race this afternoon at Tampa is again a conditional claimer. This time $8,000 tags. Non-winners of 3 lifetime the condition. 3-year-olds and up, they'll go 1 mile and 40.
5, 7, 8, ladies and gentlemen. See if we can make it 2 in a row at this early part of the meet. And on opening day of this meet 2 weeks ago today, Catapulter scored a victory at a $16 mutual. We'll go right back to the well here as we take the next Reasonable Step Up, which is a 3L claiming tag for the same amount of money, going a mile 40 yards once again. With Walter De La Cruz, not to be confused with Fernando De La Cruz, who, as I said, wins about 2 a day. For second, number 7, Every Other Day Hero, an impressive victory in East Boston on Halloween Eve at 3-5, scheduled to make the Tampa debut for this former NYRA runner. And for third, number 8, Voter. This horse makes the Tampa Bay debut coming out of a 2-turn race at Churchill Downs that may be better than it looks on paper, while finishing off the board, beating fewer than 4 lengths, 5, 7, 8.
Fifth race is a calendar condition claimer, 5,000 tags, 3-year-olds and up, 6 furlongs the distance.
3-8-4 in my selection, staying with Walter De La Cruz here. Number 3 is Clifford. This horse had a couple of consistent efforts after changing barns, had a little regression the most recent effort. Those 3 races after changing barns were in Ohio. Now comes down to Tampa, where we have a lifetime victory for this offspring of Vindication. For second, number 8, Twisted Rose. Now, Twisted Rose has had no start since August 10th. Before that, won a dated claiming 2 races back, comes back for the nickel claiming for a horse who has been prodigious at Tampa. 4 for 10 lifetime. This horse is 4 for 22 lifetime, so we do the subtraction, 0 for 12 other, but this is a happy, happy home for number 8, Twisted Rose, who I was surprised to see at 12-1. Yes, the most recent effort at Gulfstream Park in the summer was no good, but we have previously seen on multiple occasions where this horse finds new life in Oldsmar. For third, number 4, Beijing House. Second start since October 22nd. A nice comeback effort at Tampa Bay. 3-8-4 in the 5th from Tampa Bay Downs.
All right, we'll take our first break. When we come back, a continued look at Tampa Bay. A little later on, Aqueduct. Stay tuned. I'm Seth Merrill. Join me weekdays at 10 for Racing Across America. We'll look at important races from around the country, get insight from top handicappers and analysts, and preview the upcoming week in racing. That's Racing Across America, weekdays at 10, right here on the OTB TV network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth Mayo and Anthony Mormino were just kind of laughing during the commercial. Laughing here. They certainly are not laughing down in the Philadelphia area, though. Once again, yesterday, Handicappers Report, Mike Jarbo had Parks about 9:30. Checked their Twitter feed. All systems go. So it looked like the first time in a week Parks would be back racing. 2 hours later, Twitter feed says, sorry about that, no racing at Parks. So they are still struggling to get a card.
Vacation. Moose should have told you, no racing today. Seth, do me a favor, because I might be a little long-winded on 6. Try and plot out the Twitter timing of the last 4 closings. The reason I bring it up is one day, I think the first day they closed, I was in here. It was about 9.
I don't think.
40.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it. So
Okay,
just
they're
give the
too old?
date.
Okay.
They don't give the time.
Okay.
But
It was
yesterday
like
it was about
9:40.
9:30, and then like I say, 2 hours later they said no.
One day it was like 9:05. When we came on the air, we knew that they had canceled and that we were going to do them second. Seth did a quick reversal and did Beulah. Yesterday it was after the Handicappers Report, so all systems go. Well, you jinxed yourself.
All right, Tampa's sixth race today, maiden claimer, 20 to 25,000. 2-year-old fillies going 5.5.
364, ladies and gentlemen, in True Connection gets my top pick. Third race of the career this afternoon after running for a tag in both career starts, debuted at nearly 20 to 1, came back and ran less well at 3 to 1. Both of those efforts were at Churchill Downs. Most folks, I think, know my feelings about the odds and the third career start. This is where I like it. Dean Butler scheduled to get them out for the first time for this Churchill shipper who runs for 25. For second, number 6, Strolling in the Rain is 6 to 5 on the board here. This is a horse who is in the crosshairs of running less well. Debuted at 14 to 1 and ran third at Keeneland near the end of their meet for Joan Scott, and now is 6 to 5 on the morning line for the dirt debut. Tough way to play the game in this person's opinion. For third, number 4, Magnificent X. Chad Stewart sends out this runner for the career debut with very, very nice precocious pedigree, being an offspring of Northern Afleet. 364 in this afternoon's 6th.
Seventh race at Tampa this afternoon, maiden claimer, $30,000 to $32,000 tags. These are 2-year-olds. They'll stretch to 1 mile and a 16th on the grass.
Now this race I fancy very much. The 11 and the 1A are the also eligible. We have a full field of 10, and for me it's 6 to 4, and on top is a 6 to 1 morning line shot, Let the Sparks Fly. I don't really think that at $14, but we'll take our chances. Gets to the turf for only the second time in the career, and the first time was in the debut, taking on maiden special weights. Now in the 4th career start, in for a tag, but it is once again the pedigree for me. An offspring of Langfair going middle distance on the turf, and then you have Stormcat on the bottom. We draw a very good post position here. And you look at the 3 career races to date, and we haven't even hit the board. Once was the beaten 9 to 5 favorite. The debut was 7 to 2. But as I look at it, those defeats help us with the price, and I think this is the best opportunity to perform at our best. And I like that combination. So number 6, Let the Sparks Fly, my top pick in here, shipping in after the 3 starts at Laurel. For second, down on the rail, number 2, Arch Pleasure. And I vacillated about putting this horse on top because of the better price, but making the second career start after a non-effort in the debut on October 25th. But this is a Graham Motion Augustin Stables runner, an offspring of, you could guess it, Arch, brilliantly bred for the turf. For third, number 2, Best of the Babies. Must be a fan of John Waite. They add blinkers for the 3rd career start. Scheduled to make the 2nd start on turf, but hopefully today it will be on the firm turf going for this offspring of Rock Hard 10, who is 15 to 1 on the morning line, 6-4 in the 7th.
8th race today, an optional claiming event, 16 tags. Non-winners are one other than the condition. Fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, 6 furlongs the trip.
9-7-2 on the outside. Play Soleil gets my top pick. A horse who has good tactical speed, shipping in from Indiana Downs and their conventional dirt surface. I am on the Walter Dela Cruz bandwagon. Hopefully it is his turn. For number 7, Majestic Samurai was a $20,000 claim. Has shown nothing in the 2 efforts following that claim. Matter of fact, both 7th place finishes coming out of the Jamie Ness barn, naturally 3 to 1. For third, number 2, Gazillion Smiles. Changes barns, comes out this afternoon trying to make it 2 in a row after scoring at Calder 18 days ago. 9-7-2 in the 8th.
In the 9th today at Tampa, it is a conditional claiming event, this time $16,000 tags. Non-winners are 2 lifetime the condition. These are 3-year-olds and up on the grass at 1 mile.
And hopefully this is a precursor to the January, February, March races at Gulfstream Park, the finales, these claiming races that I adore. 5-3-2 as we go a mile. And, you know, I looked at the turf course at Tampa Bay Downs, and when they ran a mile and 1/8 the other day, backing all the way up. It was an about distance. And I've looked at it, I just presume they can't run out of the straightaway because the diagram is correct. They do run out of the chute going a mile, but it looked like to my eye there was room. Full field of 10 in here, 11 through 14 are also eligibles. 5-3-2, Bernie DeMint, 12-1 on the morning line, and this was a horse that jumped out for me. Has hit the board in nearly half of the 14 lifetime tries on the turf. Yes, only one of them is a W, an offspring of Bernstein, making only the second start since January. I thought a very, very nice return to the races on October 18th. Commenting the Daily Racing Form, pulled early, rail trip, and no surprise, horses off a long layoff. They seem to be keyed up. For second, number 3, Secret Soul, making only the 6th career start, leaving the David Donk barn and the Naira Circuit. And for third, number 2, Royal Lerman sends out this runner for the first time since the first day of autumn. 5-3-2 in the intriguing finale from Tampa.
That puts a wrap on Tampa Bay Downs for this morning. Looking at their afternoon card, we'll come back and look at Aqueduct for today. Stay tuned.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrill. I am Anthony Mormino. Tampa Bay Downs for this Wednesday morning is in the books. Now turning our attention to the Big A, the inner dirt track. Week number 2, we're going to start it off with open company. 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares in for a claiming tag of $16,000. This is what I call the new generation of the Capital B set. That is the 3-prongers. And right now we sort of have a rhythm for these 3-prongers. And for now we're going to know it's going to be non-winners of dirt. But it's you get the L, which is 3L, or the 3-year-olds. That's what we've become used to. And I think it was at Saratoga, Seth, a couple of races, not too many. They started the 3rd one, which I have to say I like very much because what it does is it's non-winners of, in this case, obviously a dirt race. And it seems as if, Seth, in New York, 6 months has been the magic trigger. I think every single race with the 3rd leg has been 6 months, give or take a day. You can see the day when they'll change it to a year. My point being is what it does is it allows older horses in who maybe won 5 or 6 races but are having, over the last 6 months. So theoretically their form is off, and obviously what we're looking for, a bigger field size.
Also, it is have not won on the dirt, so it allows some grass, and that just shakes things up. I said it the last couple of weeks also with grass racing having ended. in New York, you're going to see a lot of these horses who, for whatever reason, you know, they can't afford to ship to Florida or whatever.
Smaller
So
outfits.
let's see if we got some. And so for a couple of weeks, some
Now,
of these turf
not
horses
to
are going to be
interrupt,
here and not
if you
shake
get
out.
somebody on from Naira over the winter time, it's not a big deal, and it's not going to be applicable in New York for a while, but when we had grass racing, they had MTOs. And I was like, the MTOs doesn't the
under
race
these various
change
conditions?
to
Yeah.
like the non-winners of a dirt race in 6 months? If it's a dirt race, what is the thorough condition? Say non-winners of a turf race in 6 months, but it becomes a dirt contest, and what the fallout for that is. But please continue.
Yeah, those conditions are kind of funny if it switches surface. In the opener, and going back to yesterday I did Turf Paradise. It was an okay day. I had a couple of winners, but one of those races was a play of the day race for me with an exacta box, came back for $84. So I had 3 plays of the day.
Nice.
And I hit the $84 exacta, which was good. And I think it was only 2 with winners on top, but there was one race where I got robbed. Mine, it was about 7-2, maybe the third choice in the field, makes a nice move on the turn. There's a horse on the inside, a horse on the outside, but plenty of room for everybody. And mine's coming up in between and looks like I'm going to get a good run through the stretch at the very least. And then the inside horse comes out and wipes out mine and the next one. And I think, well, the race is over. And in the meantime, things open up on the rail. A horse comes up and wins easily. And mine, who goes back to about 5th, re-rallies and gets up for a nice second. And I thought, if that hadn't opened, if that horse hadn't, so I kind of got robbed from one yesterday.
Now, we talked about off the air yesterday. I didn't look at Turf Paradise yesterday. Was it crazy parimutuels on Tuesday?
It wasn't as bad as the day before, but there was a.
Who said bad?
Well, it wasn't as crazy as the day before, but there was a mix, but the long prices weren't quite as long.
Right.
But so we'll see what we can do in New York this afternoon. 4, 2, 8, and 1 in the opener. Score Boyera. I also have to say the name reminded me yesterday. I've done it like twice in the last week now. There was a horse, and I read it Papaya, and of course when they came around the track, immediately as soon as it was Papaya. And I don't need enough papaya. If somebody had asked me to spell papaya, I would have put an E in there someplace. There was no E in this. But just so you know, I realized I pronounced that wrong yesterday. The one last week, though, was a Greek goddess, which I'm giving myself a break. I give myself a break on that one also because the track announcer pronounced it the same way I did. So I didn't feel bad the next day. But score Boyera in the top spot. Just missed in a similar event last time for David Jacobson. Nice close-up second place finish after having taken the lead late. I think this one comes back and is very competitive in here today. Second spot, House on Toilsome. 10 starts over the inner track, has hit the board in 7 of those. So just a horse that typically runs well on this track. The move to the inner track last time ran an okay third. Well beaten, but the winner was off by over 7 lengths. So, the lengths beaten, I'm giving a little bit of a consideration to that. Again, House on Toilsome, on a little bit of a horse for a course angle, perhaps. And in the third spot, we'll go to the number 8, Finder's Key. Just is going to be dangerous, I think, and perhaps very dangerous. I may regret having this horse down in the ratings. But on the class drop, this horse is eligible to get the wake up. Also adds blinkers today. So this horse, I think, is going to be well met and is shopping for a winning spot on the drop. As I say, I may regret having this horse this far down in the mix. In the opener, 4, 2, 8, and the 1 entry.
Not to worry, I think a track announcer once early in his career, I don't think the career debut, mispronounced the great Alyadar's name. So it happens in big places.
The Greek name, I read it. I said, Euphrosyne. And I was in with Jeff Carl, and while I was talking, he punched it up, and when we got back to him, he said, I looked it up. It's a Greek goddess, whatever. And when I got home, after watching the race, I thought, wait a minute, Greek goddess. So I looked it up on the internet, and it's the goddess of mirth or whatever, and I thought, and sure enough, then I went and found something that pronounced it, you could get an audio file. Yeah. It was Euphrosyne. It's a Greek goddess, Euphrosyne, of course. But as I say, even the track announcer was with me.
On the second half of the early daily double in New York, we have open company, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, claimers in for $30,000, non-winners at 2 lifetime, also going 6.
5, 2, 3, and 1. Number 5 missed count, 9 to 5 on the morning line. So not sort of the obvious here, but I think this horse is going to be interesting on the move up from Florida. Typically, you don't jump on these horses coming from Florida till about March or April, but we're getting one a little earlier here. Started the career down at Gulfstream, 4 starts so far, the most recent on December 1st. And again, I think potentially is going to be a very cozy fit moving up to the inner surface. So mixed count on top. Second spot, the number 2 Evasive Cat, goes out for the very, very potent Midwest Thoroughbreds. This horse has been racing in some pretty good form at Belmont and Aqueduct over the past few starts. Tries the inner track, or returns to the inner track now. Ran decently here earlier in the career with a win in a couple of starts. So I think, again, paying a little bit of attention to the owner, which isn't typically something you hang your hat on, but you have to pay attention when it's Midwest. I think this horse is going to be a contender. And then I wasn't sure what to do with Violet Hour. As I say, there's going to be a couple of weeks where horses that have maybe a little more turf form are going to be just experimenting here on the inner. This horse comes over from Europe, having raced 3 times on the grass. Now, typically you think the European second stringers are better than our first stringers on the grass. Well, this one isn't even a second stringer. This horse was racing down a little bit as far as wear and against the competition over in Europe. So I'm not quite sure what we have here. Moves over and drops into a conditional claimer for a 30 tag, but Christophe Clement trained. So there are things to like and things that'll scratch your head a little bit. The biggest head scratcher is going to be how this horse will take to the dirt. We'll know more about that today, but I had to put it in the mix. Second race, 5, 2, 3, and 1.
On to the third, a New York bred stake that has been around a very, very long time. Today, this year, at midweek, 2-year-olds going 1.70 in the Damon Runyon.
1, 4, and 6 for me, the number 1, Samrat. And again, master of the obvious here, 6 to 5 on the warning line. Leaves from the rail, has some early speed, should be well placed all the way around the track. Couple turns here in 1.70 miles. Goes out for Rick Violet, just on the numbers. And again, I think this speed, now this will be the first stretch out. This horse has gone 6 and 7.5 in the first 2 starts, but has won pretty convincingly. Obviously, a little bit of a class test today, but I think if you look at the rest of the field, I'm not sure if it's a super class test. Number 2, coming out of maiden races. Number 4, coming out of maiden races. Number 5, maiden 2 starts back, tried a stakes race last time, was well beaten. All 4 of those starts were on the turf. So the point being, class. You expect a class move on the move into a $100,000 stake. But I think if you actually look at the rest of the field, Samrat, I think, is going to be the class of this field. Number 4, Deceived in the second spot. Again, this one is coming out of a state-bred maiden win. Did so convincingly and did it in a manner that indicates moving nicely forward with the form cycle right now. Buyer figures have moved forward, and last couple of starts have shown some nice improvement. Third spot, Go Mets, the number 6 horse. Goes out for David Jacobson and has strung a couple of nice wins together in the past couple of starts, the last being right over this inner track. So again, I think this horse could be interesting in here as well. In the Damon Runyon, 1, 4, and 6.
I think about the Damon Runyon. I think, as I've told the story before, I never really followed Tampa Bay Downs until 1990 when Champagne for Ashley won that race. He and 4 Stars All-Star, former winners of the Damon Runyon. On to the fourth, we have Open Company, maiden claimers, in for 50, going 1.70 miles also.
7, 2, 3, and 5. The number 7 is Horsepower. Goes out for Chad Brown and Fox Hill Farm. I got to be honest, this is one of those that I'm not sure what to do with. This horse could win pretty easily or could get beaten. This is the class relief that makes you scratch your head a little bit. Fox Hill paid $420,000 for this horse. Third career start. They move out of Maiden Special Weight Company in for a $50,000 tag. I think they're trying to clear the barn, but I think this horse could get a wake-up call on the class relief. Showed some speed last time before fading. That may be more potent against the claiming ranks. Second spot, Coronate, moves up from Churchill Downs and moves into the Jacobson barn. I'm not quite sure if this was a private purchase. Jacobson has a horse similar to this in the next race, moving from other connections. I looked it up. This horse was not owned by David Jacobson last time. I'm wondering if that's just kind of a paperwork thing, or David Jacobson went out and made some private purchases, because this is listed trainer and owner David Jacobson. But as I say, last time out wasn't owned by Jacobson. But again, just interesting on the move from Churchill.
Doesn't he win 2 a day?
Pretty much, yeah. And so why not go out and shop for some horses and get a little more of that dough coming into your own pocket? But with Jacobson's name and the move from Churchill, Coronate in the second spot. And then Big Sam, yet another one of those horses that has moved over from turf. I'm not sure how this horse will run on the dirt. You would think with Big Brown on top, should be all right. But again, there's some question marks. If this horse does take to the dirt, however, I want him in my mix. In the fourth, I have it 7, 2, 3, and 5.
And isn't he listed with Drawing Away off a Drawing Away stable and David Jacobson? So he's obviously got the paperwork filed for ownership. On to the fifth, Open Company, 3-year-olds and up, optional claimers in for 16, starter allowance for 16. Mile 70.
And that's what I meant by paperwork. I'm wondering if these horses are shipping in from out of town, and the out of town owners maybe don't have the paperwork.
Yeah.
So you transfer in for Jacobs.
And by the way, that just so folks know, that is, we don't talk about that type of, that's a common occurrence racetrack. I mean, that's a very, you're not licensed in New York. Sometimes the New York stuff can be a little cumbersome, so nothing's going on is my point. It happens regularly.
Fifth at Aqueduct, I have a 3, 7, 2, and 6. The number 3 is Lady Grey Snow. Makes the third start back off a mid-year layoff from March to October. A little bit of improvement, start 1 to start 2 off the layoff. Won't surprise me if Lady Grey Snow improves again today. Sally's Dream, the number 7 horse in the second spot, has the best numbers, clearly the best on the buyer numbers. So there's a little bit of a buyer edge here, but they were on turf, so it's yet another one of those horses just getting a little bit of an experiment. But do note, this horse has run okay on the inner track earlier in the career. Number 6, Persnickety, just another one of those moving from an out-of-town barn into the David Jacobson barn. Again, Jacobson listed as owner. I looked last time out, he wasn't. So again, a little interesting angle there. But going into the Jacobson barn could be a contender on the move to New York. Persnickety in the mix also. Fifth at Aqueduct, 3, 7, 2, and 6.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's action from the Big A.
I'm Steve Beck.
And I'm Seth Merrill.
Together, we're loose on the lead on Capital OTB, Sundays at 10 a.m. Why should they watch, Seth?
Sit down on Sunday, have a bagel, get some great racing conversation.
Cream cheese only, no jelly. Sundays, 10 a.m., loose on the lead, Capital OTB.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Alongside Seth Merrill, I'm Anthony Mormino. We're up to race number 6 at the Big A this afternoon. Open Company, maiden claimers, also racing a mile 70 yards.
1, 4, 7, and 5. Excuse me. Number 1, King Congrats, goes to maiden special weight to maiden claimer and dips down into a 25 maiden claimer. So I think on the class relief, King Congrats is going to be very, very competitive. King of Gold Street in the second spot for me, also on the class relief, goes out for Tom Avlatrani and Live Oak. This one started the career in maiden special weight company. Last time out was in for a $50,000 tag, additional relief today, and add some blinkers. So as I say, on the class drop, top 2 are kind of interesting in here. Third spot, the number 7. Pace makes the race. Yet another one that might wake up on the drop. Started the career maiden special weight, then was in a 65,000 maiden claimer. Last time out, 35,000. Showed a little bit of a wake up with that drop to 35, drops to 25 today. So I don't use any of these with super confidence because we haven't seen any real talent so far. But just you have to think with the class relief, there's a potential wake-up call for at least the top 3 in here. So I have it 1, 4, 7, and 5.
On to the 7th race. We're going to have open company, 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. Claimers in for 12.5. Non-winners are 2 lifetime. They're going to go the extra 40 yards and a mile to 16.
7, 10, 9, and 2. 7 is interesting. 7 comes off a couple of sprints since returning, laid off from December of last year until October of this year. Put in 2 sprints, adds the blinkers today. Chuck Lopez on board, serious class relief, and stretches off of those 2 sprints. I think Lopez with the blinkers on will send, and this one could be very tough to reel in late, particularly, as I say, with that serious class relief. So for me, Cry Holy, the number 7 horse, very, very interesting. Second spot, we'll go to Darnley Bay, another horse finding some class relief. Last few starts has been, going okay. You go 4 starts back, broke the maiden for a 16 tag, then was in for a 15 tag, ran an okay 3rd. Off of that one, that was claimed out of that one, bounced up to the 20 level, probably back into the proper level today. So Darnley Bay should be competitive. And then the number 9, Swift Taylor, just looking for this one to show a little bit of oomph with the return to the inner track earlier this year. Back in January and March, had some starts over the inner and ran decently, so could be a little bit of a horse for a course angle. 7th race, 7, 10, 9, and 2.
On to the 8th race this afternoon, New York State Breds, but not the stakes action. 3-year-olds and up, optional claimers in for 25, non-winners of 2 other than sprinting 6.
1 entry, 8, 11, and 12. The 1 entry, both from David Jacobson. I probably prefer the plain one a little bit more, drawing away David Jacobson. And just off the buyers, I think this horse, again, has a little bit of an edge, maybe off the recent buyers. I mean, you can find comparable ones back in some of these horses' past performance, but recently this horse has been running okay and seems to like the inner track all right. The 1A, not my first time, I think is good enough that if Jacobson decides to go in this direction, I'll just put some trust in him to make the right move. Second spot, number 8, Do I Amuse You? This one has some really nice early speed and may prove very dangerous on that angle. This may be the pace play. Out in the 8 hole, will be outside the other speed. The 10 has some speed, but I think the 8 is far more speed of the speed. So again, this horse could be very, very interesting. Do I Amuse? And then in the 3rd spot, we are going to go to number 11, I'm Stoked. Only 3 starts so far. And if you believe that last one in the 91 buyer figure and the non-winners of 1 other than, this horse could be proved very, very dangerous. It's an aberration off the prior numbers, so I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Also, we're coming off a long layoff, but I'm stoked. Again, going back to that last race is a little bit interesting. 8th race, 1 entry, 8, 11, and 2.
And finishing up with New York State Breds, we have 3-year-olds and up, maiden special weights, racing 6.
I have it 8, 9, 7, and 4. The number 8 is Escape to the Moon. This is one of those races where I kind of like to shop around for a fresh face. I just couldn't pull the trigger. I got 2 first-time starters in my mix, but I couldn't quite pull the trigger because I think Escape to the Moon in the first 3 starts is showing good enough numbers that compared to the rest of this field should prove very difficult today. That said, this horse is stuck in a bridesmaid role. With only 3 starts, I'm willing to give this horse one more chance. But do realize, I wouldn't argue with somebody taking a shot against because 3 starts, 3 second-place finishes, we're starting to get a bad feeling about this one. But again, I'll give this one one more chance. Then a couple of second-time starters. Number 9, Felix, with Freud on top, could be precocious. Trainer does okay first time out of the box. Similar situation with the number 7, Midnight Missile. The breeding and the nature and the nurture both working a little bit to make that one interesting. In a field that's filled with horses that have had a number of chances and haven't proved to been too difficult to get by so far. So again, the fresh faces in here attract some attention. In the finale, I have it 8, 9, 7, and 4.
And that wraps up our look at the Big A this afternoon on Wednesday. Hopefully no weather incidents in the Northeast. We certainly aren't expecting any down at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything around here yesterday, and it had the snow blow again.
My goodness, where did that come from? Unbelievable. This afternoon on Capital Off-Track Betting, you stay inside, you stay warm all day. The Big A will kick off our afternoon, followed by Tampa, Laurel, Hawthorne, Turf Paradise, Portland Meadows, Dover, Northfield, Pompano, and Balmoral later on this evening. If you missed any of our selections, go to capitalotb.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see the Handicappers Report. Click on today's version. You'll get my thoughts from Tampa Bay, Seth's from the Big A, and later on this afternoon, you'll be able to get Jeff Carl's thoughts on New York and mine from, no, tomorrow's Thursday. Me and Jeff? Jeff Thursday?
You are, because you're
well,
in
I'm
for
switching
me.
for
Yeah,
you.
you're
Usually
in for
work
me.
with Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff will be New York, and I will be Gulfstream Park, as Seth has been kind enough to switch Thursday and Friday so I can attend our little guy's final day of school for 16 days. What a great vacation. Also, talked about it going into about 7 weeks now. Capital Off-Track Betting on November 1st. We changed up our wagering platform for a state-of-the-art system. It's capitalotbbet.com. And Seth, I would say almost all of the kinks for our viewers must have been worked out, because I'm going to guess if we had received any questions from viewer mail at capitalotb.com, we would be handling them on the air, as we have suggested to our good folks out there if you've had any stumbling blocks, but nothing's come across my desk. So as we mentioned, the change is a little new, but it is an outstanding system. And if you want to phone the old-fashioned way, there is our number for customer service. Seth, Racing Across America is up next. Who do you have?
Jeremy Plonk, his weekly visit on Wednesdays. We'll take a look back at some of the action over the weekend, get some of his thoughts. Certainly the Hollywood Futurity will be first and foremost with the big performance by Shared Belief. But then he, of course, had the second place finisher, Candy Boy, mentioned when he was on the show last week as a 2-year-old to keep your eyes on. So we talked to Jeremy, and then from the Buffalo News, Gene Kirshner, he has his annual, it's a Racing Festivus column out, recapping some of the highlights, the feats of strength, the airing of grievances, takes a little Seinfeld twist on the 2013 racing season. So that'll come up about the bottom of the hour.
I'll say one thing about liking Candy Boy, who I also like. When you do this long enough and you keep score over long periods of time, you realize one thing. You had the right horse. You were, it was a 25-to-1 shot. You did a great job. A horse ran huge and beat you. You didn't lose. You got beat. Your horse did everything you want, and no, you don't get paid unless you did some, underneath, which you do at 26-to-1, even with an even money favorite. But you really walk away going, I did well. I've said this before. We echoed it when Gulfstream Park opened. I took a couple very comfortable offers, which isn't good for the wallet, but sometimes you feel like you came out of a boxing match with Muhammad Ali. Other times you're just like, hey, that's the game. And yeah, you would have liked to have had the $54 for the winner, but you're like, you know what? I was right. I saw some talent. I thought John Sadler would have him move forward, and he did. But you know what? Jerry Hollendorfer was holding a better hand. He had aces over kings, so, it helps a little bit, I think. When you're in it for the long haul, you say, you know what? I got it. Down the road, eventually, those 25-to-1 shots come in. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Handicappers Report. Please stay tuned. Up next, Racing Across America.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.